Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the second session of the day. I hope I'm audible as well as visible. Okay, great. I hope we'll all stay awake. Post lunch after a great meal, it depends on what meal you have had. You know, things can become very, very difficult. So, coffee, tea, whatever it takes, just be awake. Anyway, let's wait for those to join and then we'll begin our discussion for the day. Jyoti, so ये part B. What is part B? What is your concern, Jyoti? I did not understand. Yaram Seti. Amendment, yes. Amend is a word which is mentioned in the Constitution. You can also find this word mentioned under Article 368. Shakti, what is substantial question of law? Substantial question of law basically refers to trying to find out or interpret any such law which is not a part of the constitution but is of large or grave public importance. Any law which is not the constitution but impacts people at large, and when we have to interpret and deeply understand the meaning of that, that is called a substantial question of law, right? How to apply laws on people, understanding of that is the substantial, very important and crucial question of law. Effective majority. Effective majority basically means all those people, the total strength of the house. Then some seats are also vacant. Some MP passed away. That seat is vacant, right? So we reduce those seats. Whatever remains is called effective strength. More than half of it is called effective majority. Parliament chapter is correct. We have just started Parliament now. We are midway, somewhere maybe in the mid of the chapter Parliament. Polity lecture 3 part B. Part B, I think basically we have 3 sessions on Sunday, morning, afternoon and evening session. So this is the second session of the day. Shalu, chapter is not complete. Nikhil, how center can make permanent laws? We'll discuss that under center-state relations. There are various ways in which we can make permanent laws also. I mean, one such example would be transfer the subject only from state list to union list. That's it. Okay, so I believe amendment. What is the meaning of amendment? Amend, it's an English word, right? Sometimes we get too bogged down by the topic. Amendment is an English word, right? Amendment means to make a change, modify. That's called amendment. Okay. Yes, Anubhav. Election in parliaments is generally in a form of secret ballot. Okay. So we have seen so far the amendment, we have seen so far various kinds of majorities, and we've also seen some special majorities, two of them. One wherein two-third majority is required, but two-third of total strength is required for impeachment, and two-third of present and voting is required under Articles 249 and 312. Now, let's look at Article 368, a very unique provision. So, in the very first class, we are talking about how uh, the makers have left a lot of scope for this fundamental rule book, the Constitution, to be modified. Right? A lot of scope has been left for the rule book to be modified. So that is one way to modify it with a very special kind of majority is called amendment to the Constitution, which is under Article 368. So, what exactly do you mean by amending the Constitution? Modifying the Constitution, right? Changing the provisions in the Constitution. What is a procedure? What is a process? Now, amending the Constitution is a combination of two majorities, absolute and two-third present and voting, whichever is more. How do you amend the Constitution? We need the support of majority of two-third members present and voting and more than 50% of the total strength of the House, whichever is higher or whichever is more. Whichever is more. Let's take an example. Let's take example of Lok Sabha only. Now in Lok Sabha, total strength is how much? 543. Let us say there is some vacancy in Lok Sabha, 13 seats are vacant. Effective strength is how much? 530. On any given day, there are 420 people present and voting. Now, how do we amend the Constitution? So, to amend the Constitution, what do? We have to have a combination of two-third present and voting, more than 50% total strength. This is the combination that is there with respect to how we can amend the Constitution. Let's calculate. 2 by 3 into 420 and more than 50% of 543. This number comes to 272, and if you calculate it, this number comes to 280. Which is more? Which is higher? Of course, this is higher. So, how many people are required to amend the Constitution? 280 people are required to amend the Constitution in this case. Okay? So, this is what is called amending the Constitution, and this is how you calculate that majority. Now, let me ask you, and you tell me now, in case, same thing, but if number of people who are present is 360, then tell me how many people are required to amend the Constitution? Please calculate quickly and tell me. 272, 132, 240, 20, 180. Multiple answers. 241. Amazing. Let's calculate. Present and voting. 2 by 3 into 360 is how much? 240. And more than 50% is how much? 272. We have to find out what? Whichever is higher. Which is higher? 272 is higher. So in this case, 272 people are required, not 240. Because the point here is whichever is more. Right? So 272. One more example. Please tell me how many people are required to amend the constitution if 510 people are present on that day. Okay. How many are required? Now I think most of you have got it correct. 340. Not more than. It is 2/3. More than 50%. Let's calculate again. This will be 2 by 3 into 510, which will be 317 times into 2, 340, which is higher than 272. So how many are required to amend the constitution? 340 people are required to amend the constitution in this situation, right? So that is there. Anyway, yes, present and voting. So I am not writing present and voting. It wastes time if I write present and voting. It is understood in this example. It is all present and voting only, right? So that is there. I hope this point is clear now. This is how you amend the constitution. Forget the calculation. Nobody is going to ask you the calculation. Maybe in CSAT, who knows, but not in polity. But you should remember this particular majority. What is that? 2/3 present and voting, more than 50% total strength. Please repeat along with me. 2/3 present and voting, more than 50% total strength of the house. Now, there are a lot of things in the constitution which also impact the states. States also get impacted. If you modify the constitution, sometimes states also get impacted. I'll give you a simple example. What is Article 54? Article 54 refers to the electoral college. Do you remember? Electoral college for the elections of the president. Yes or no? Which comprises of MPs and MLAs. Elected MPs, elected MLAs. Now comes a problem. Let's say the parliament wants to modify the constitution and wants to modify Article 54. It says we want to change Article 54 and we want to say that in the election of president, only MPs will vote. MLAs will not vote. That's my modification. That's my amendment. But when you make such an amendment, you are actually modifying the powers of the states also. Or what if you want to take some topic from state list and send it to union list? Possible, right? See, Article 249 has a problem. What is the problem? Firstly, you have to get permission from Rajya Sabha. And then also the permission is only for 1 year. And then also the problem is that if you make a law, it is valid only for extra 6 months. So many limitations are there. The best thing would be take a topic from state list and permanently put it in the union list only. That's a very interesting way to get around this problem of taking the authorization again and again. But if you take any topic out of the state list and put it in a concurrent list or union list, you are also modifying the power of the state. And in our country, we have in the very first class discussed this word called federal, division of power between center and states. Whenever any amendment tries to modify the federal elements of our constitution, tries to modify those areas wherein states also are involved, then we have to also get the approval of states. Not all the states, only half of the states. And in the states, the state has to pass that proposal with a simple majority. So, please read now. When a constitutional amendment bill tries to change the federal structure meaning the division of power between center and states, it needs to be ratified. What is the meaning of ratify? Ratify means to pass. This word ratify means to approve, pass. Passed by states as well. That is, 2/3 members present in voting plus more than 50% total strength, supported by. This will happen in the parliament. This happens in the parliament. Then that proposal is sent to all the states. The moment not less than, meaning at least half, 50% of the state legislatures. How many states do we have in the country? How many states do we have right now? Please tell me, let's see. We have 28 states. 28 states are there. The moment half of the states, 50% states, means what? 14 states. The moment 14 states approve such a change, that change is accepted. And the states have to approve not by a special majority, but by a simple majority. I hope this point is clear. This is how we can even change those elements which are federal features of the Constitution. These are the list of the provisions. If you want to change any such provision here, you will also need the approval, the consent of at least half of the states. Now, one more thing. There is, in how much time should the states approve? No fixed time frame. For states to approve. The moment half of the states say yes, the task is over. Even if other half say no, they are crying, they are rolling on the floor, we don't care. If 14 states right now say yes, we accept the change, the task is over, the change is made. What other states feel, nobody cares. Okay. So, what are the examples? Election of the president and the manner of election, the extent or limit of the executive power of union or states, Supreme Court and High Courts. In case you want to decrease the power of Supreme Court and High Courts, you have to take the permission of states also. Distribution of legislative power between union and states. Any of the list in 7th schedule, that means union, state, or concurrent. Representation of states in the parliament. What is this? Schedule 4. If you want to make any kind of change here, then you need to get the approval of states also. If you want, what is Schedule 4? Allocation of seats to the Council of States. In case you want to increase or decrease the number of MPs from any state in the Rajya Sabha, state's permission is required. Okay. And now, in case some of you may feel here, sir, what is this very confusing kind of situation? 50%, 2/3, so much calculations required. My CSAT is very poor, right? I can't handle all this. No problem. You want to change this procedure? Do it. Once you become an IAS officer, please tell your minister to bring a proposal to change the procedure. But even when you want to change the procedure, you will have to use the same procedure. to change the procedure. Changing the procedure under Article 368. Even if you want to change the provision of Article 368, you have to use the same Article 368 to change the provision. So these are the areas wherein states' permission is also required. Half of the states, in whatever time they approve, nobody cares. 1 year, 1 day, 10 years, 10 days, 1 lakh years, 1 lakh days, nobody cares. The moment half the states have approved, the change is made. Okay, that's it as far as the amendment to the constitution is concerned under Article 368. Now, such kind of proposals wherein the amendment or such kind of bills wherein amendment is being sought by the center, some conditions have to be fulfilled. You can't, amendment bill is not some ordinary bill. Constitutional amendment means you are modifying the most important rule book of the country. Some special conditions are there. Okay. Now, what are those conditions? Number one, such kind of bills can only be introduced in the parliament, meaning any house, either house of parliament, Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, but only in parliament. State legislatures are not allowed to bring any kind of proposal to change the constitution. They are not permitted only to do such things. Second, now who can bring this bill? Just to tell you, see, this is the entire parliament. This parliament consists of all these people. Think of them as people. Don't think of it as flowing water. Like we used to draw the diagram in school days and all. These are people. Think of them as people. This parliament consists of people who are called what? MPs. This is the entire parliament. Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. Now, are you aware that some of these MPs are also ministers? Yes or no? Narendra Modi is an MP. Is he a minister? Of course he's a minister. Prime Minister. Amit Shah is an MP. Is he a minister? Of course he's a minister. Home Minister. Some MPs are ministers. But there are a lot of MPs who are not ministers from any party. They can be from BJP. They can be from Congress. Is Rahul Gandhi a minister? He is not, but he is an MP. All those MPs, whether they belong to BJP, Congress, Aam Aadmi Party or any other party, every MP who is not a minister is also called by a name called private members. Who are not ministers are called private member. There is a term used for it. Okay. So, who are private members? Non-minister MP is a private member. Such bills, which are called constitutional amendment bills, they can be brought by anyone, any MP, whether you are a minister or a private member. I hope now you know what is the meaning of private member. Private member is also an MP only, but MP who is not minister. Are we clear on this? This is what is a private member. So private member can be from any party, BJP, Congress, any party. Number 3, when you bring such bills, you do not need any prior permission from the president. It is simply not required. Number 4, sometimes we'll see this shortly only, that when you pass bills, some bills, if let's say both houses have some conflict of opinion, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, they have some conflict on a proposal, on a bill. Lok Sabha wants to pass the bill, Rajya Sabha says don't pass the bill, very bad bill. then they can have a joint sitting, meaning houses can sit together and decide. But there is no concept of joint sitting in a constitutional amendment bill, meaning such bills have to be passed by both the houses separately. Okay. So each house must pass the bill separately. No provision for holding a joint sitting. These are two separate kind of situations. Lok Sabha also, Raj Sabha also have to pass the bill separately. You cannot have a joint sitting for a constitutional amendment. If one house passes, other house does not, then such bills will not be passed. Clear? And lastly, I think the last point we saw yesterday also in the veto power of president, that the Indian president has no veto power under constitutional amendment bill. Okay. So the Indian president has no power under constitutional amendment bills. He or she has to give his or her assent. It's mandatory. The president must give his assent to the bill. Must. In fact, this must was made mandatory via, please write which amendment. I had mentioned this yesterday in the class. Which amendment made it mandatory for the president to give assent? Please write. 40-second. It's wrong. Don't write 40-second. In the topic veto powers, we had seen this. So far, one person has written the right answer. Sayadri. Okay, Nitesh, Mandeep. Something you'll write now. 44, 68, 86, 92. Dhaval. Okay, right. Okay. Before you make more mistakes and I feel more bad about it, via 24th Amendment Act 1971. It's okay. We just saw this yesterday, so revision time must not have been there. No problem. Don't feel emotional. This is when the president's veto power over constitutional amendments has been taken away. So now he has no such power. He has to simply sign. You can't send it back. You cannot withhold it. Nothing can be done. You have to give your assent. As simple as that. Okay. These are all conditions mentioned under Article 368 only. So don't worry. All these things are mentioned. And in the Constitution, I'm not creating it on my own. These are all mentioned in the Constitution. So based on this, only do we bring constitutional amendment bills. And what is a majority required? 2/3 present and voting and more than 50% total strength. And if the bill also modifies the federal features, then we have to get the approval from half of the states, at least half of the states, by a simple majority. This is what is the third type of special majority which is used to modify or amend the constitution. Okay. Now, just on a side note, I am just showing this to you. For example, see, Manish Tiwari. Manish Tiwari is a non-minister. He is from Congress. He is a non-minister. So he also has given notice to bring such a bill. So just an example to show that any person can bring such a bill, right? Any person could bring such a bill, whether a private member or a minister. And all the MPs of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha who are not ministers are called private members. Please don't have this doubt, sir. Are they elected or nominated? I'm telling you again, all the MPs of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha who are not ministers are called private members. You should know very well that I'm saying all the members, elected or nominated, does not matter. Are you a minister? No, then you are a private member. Are you a minister? Yes, then of course you are a minister. That's it. Okay. Now, one more thing, just on a side note, this particular special majority that we are talking about, what special majority? 2/3 present and voting more than 50% total strength. This kind of majority is not just used in the case of amending constitution. This majority is also used in some other places. For example, in case you want to remove the judges of Supreme Court and High Courts, the same majority is used. We'll discuss it later on in detail. In case you want to remove the Chief Election Commissioner, in case you want to remove the Comptroller and Auditor General, same kind of majority is required. In case you want to approve a national emergency, right? Same kind of majority is required. In case you want to create or abolish a legislative council in the state, same kind of majority is required. We'll discuss these 2 points later on. We'll discuss this point when we study the judiciary. We'll discuss this point when we study the Election Commission of India. But just remember that the same majority is used in some other places also, these places. That's it. We are done with the various types of majorities in the parliament. First up was the absolute majority, effective majority, simple majority. All these were more than 50%. Then we looked into special majority. One is Article 61, impeachment, more than at least 2/3 of total strength. Then 249 and 312, that is 2/3 of present and voting. And then amendment, which is a combination, 2/3 present and voting and more than 50% total strength. And we have also seen the conditions to bring such amendment proposals. So far, we have made 105 amendments in this country, right? So that is there with respect to the special majority. Okay. Now, just to point out, you will find this last point mentioned here also, and the same point is mentioned under this here also. How is it possible? Simple majority also and special also. We'll discuss that once we come to the chapter state legislature. So till then, hold your horses, control your emotions. We'll discuss that. Nobody is going to run away without discussing these. Okay, don't worry. So that is all as far as amendment is concerned. Please solve a question. Came this year only. Oh, sorry, last year only, 2022. Solve the question, please. No, sorry, poll. I sometimes forget the poll thing. 4 options and Nitesh, do we need to remember all the amendments? No, Nitesh. Whatever I tell you in the class, that is going to be sufficient. %66% got this answer correct. A bill amending the constitution requires a prior recommendation of the president. Yes or no? If you are amending a bill, we don't need anybody's prior recommendation. So 1 is wrong. If one is wrong, you get the answer only. Remove this, remove this, remove this, and you have the answer. One statement and you have the answer. That's how easy the statement is. Okay. Let's look at the other 2 statements also. When a constitution amendment bill is presented to the President of India, it is obligatory for him to sign. Of course, obligatory, mandatory, he shall, must. All these are synonyms. Okay. Don't say, sir, you had said the word must. Here it is mentioned obligatory. It's the same thing. Third one, a constitution amendment bill must be passed by both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha separately by a special majority, and there is no provision for joint sitting. Of course, there is no provision for joint sitting, right? So that's also there. All these 3 statements herein, and 2 and 3 are correct. 1 is wrong. Okay, solve one more question asked in 2013. Please read the question carefully, the statement carefully. I'll give you 45 seconds to solve. Pritam, how 3 is correct? You tell me how 3 is wrong, and then I'll tell you how 3 is correct. Where is state legislature is concerned? Is the statement wrong? Pritam, my question is the statement wrong? Statement is not wrong. Statement is correct. Anubhav, is the leader of opposition a minister? No, no. He is not a minister. He has the same status as a minister, but he is not a minister. 31% have marked B as the answer. Amazing. You please read the statement carefully. No chance of changing answer. Extremely sorry. So all those people, the innocent ones who marked B as the correct answer. See, one is wrong. An amendment to the Constitution of India can be initiated by introduction of a bill in the Lok Sabha only. This is wrong. It can be done in both Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, either house. One is wrong. These two are wrong. Please read B. Those who mark B correct, read the statement again. If such an amendment seeks to make changes in the federal character of the Constitution, the amendment also requires to be ratified by the legislature of how many states? All or only half? Half is sufficient. No need to get the approval of all the states. That's why I said read the statement carefully. Second statement is wrong. D, neither 1 nor 2 is the right answer. Okay. So that is it with respect to the amendments in the Indian Constitution. Now, types of bills in the Parliament. So there are two kinds of bills in the Parliament. One is based on introduction, the other is based on content. First up, bills based on introduction. See, whenever any proposal has to be brought in the Parliament, somebody has to bring the proposal, somebody has to read the proposal. So we can differentiate between such bills based on who brings a proposal, based on introduction, who introduces the proposal. If a bill is introduced by the minister, it is called a public bill. Public bill or government bill. This bill is introduced by minister. Okay. So any such bill which is brought by a minister is called a government or a public bill. Also, when you bring such a bill, you have to inform the government, the presiding officer, the house. You can't surprise the house. Things are decided every day. What is going to happen? So you can't come one morning and throw the bill. Come on, speaker, I am reading the bill. That is not possible. You have to give prior information that I want to bring this bill. So 7 days prior notice must be given. Are we clear on this? So in case you want to bring a bill, you have to inform 7 days beforehand that I want to read the bill in the house. Now, if you remember, there's something called the Gazette of India, the government's magazine, right? The weekly magazine published, Gazette of India. In case the bill is published by the government in the Gazette, then 1 day notice is required. One day notice only if bill is published in the Gazette. What is Gazette? Very first class. The official magazine of the government is called Gazette. So in case you want to get a bill introduced very quickly, you please get the copy of the bill published in the official magazine of government, and one day notice is given, and next day, that is day after, you can get the bill introduced. That's it, public bill. Other kind of bill is a private member bill. We know very well who is a private member. Private member is somebody who is a what? Non-minister. Private member bill, non-minister. This means this bill is introduced by a non-minister from any party. Elected, nominated, BJP, Congress, any party, does not really matter. Okay. So such a bill is called a private member bill. Now, here 30 days prior notice is given. Notice must be given. Now, these bills can't be introduced every day, right? Some days are fixed. Can be introduced on Fridays only. Okay? These bills can't be introduced on any other day, only on Friday, that too in the last 2.5 hours after lunch. So from lunch 2 o'clock till 6 p.m. the house functions. So from 3:30 to 6 p.m. on Friday, non-ministers can bring a bill. That's it. Now, there is also a limit. There are 70-80 ministers. Out of 543 in Lok Sabha and 245 in Rajya Sabha, there are 70-80 ministers. Remaining 700 MPs are non-ministers. If all the MPs keep on giving notice for bill only, we'll have 1 lakh bills. So limit is there. Maximum 3 bills per MP per session. So in the budget session, I as an MP can only give notice for 3 bills. In the monsoon session, again, I get a chance to give notice for 3 bills. That's it. That is it. Now, to tell you, see, private member bills are hardly passed. Rarely passed. I mean, so far, only 14. And also to add, last time it was passed in 1970. The last ever private member bill which was passed was in 1970. See, as a non-minister, if you want to bring a bill, let's say I want to bring a bill on the rights of, say, women's rights, or rights of some minorities. Okay. Now, for that particular topic, we already have a minister. Suppose I get to bring a bill on, say, some kind of hydroelectricity generation, and I bring a bill, then don't you think it's a very valid question that I, as a non-minister, am able to get a bill passed? What is the minister doing? With all the resources, all the IS officers, all the bureaucrats, what the hell is he doing that a non-minister can get a bill passed? So it reflects very poorly on the performance of the minister. That is why ministers normally do not allow such kind of bills. That is how it is, right? They also feel that. I'll give you an example. A few years back, I mean in 2015-16, there was an MP from Tamil Nadu, Tiruchi Siva. He, in Rajya Sabha, brought a bill on transgenders' rights. And that bill was passed by Rajya Sabha. It went to Lok Sabha. Now, in the Lok Sabha, government had majority. Government said, Tiruchi Siva, you please drop the bill. We'll bring a better bill. Because if that bill was passed, it would reflect very poorly on the Minister for Social Welfare and Justice, that what the hell are you doing? That you're not even trying to bring a bill for transgender rights. Some other random MP is doing such activities. So you have to understand this also from the minister's perspective. That is why they don't allow such bills to be passed. And see, frankly, one more big problem is there. as a minister, you are privy to a lot of IS officers. So ministers will have direct contact with people like you, right? You will be advising the ministers on a daily basis what is happening, etc. A single MP has no such contact, right? Single MP has no such contact with bureaucrats on a daily basis. So the bill quality is also not very nice. They try to give notice for random kind of bills. I'll give you a simple example. You know very well in our country, even Narendra Modi has now pointed this out. Our Prime Minister, he has also said that destination weddings should be seen as new kind of revenue generation, tourist revenue generation. So people want this destination wedding, and people are willing to spend lakhs and lakhs and crores of money on destination wedding, going to Jodhpur, Jaisalmer, booking some fort, going to some foreign countries, pre-wedding photo shoot, post-wedding photo shoot, this photo shoot, that ceremony, this ceremony, right? And we'll all burden our parents, please fulfill our wishes. And what happens in middle class families, right? Trying to fulfill the wishes, money is wasted. So what happened was that when the matter of such bills is there, or such topics are there, there was an MP from Bihar. She brought a bill in the house. She said, and the bill content was that from now on, no person will be allowed to spend more than 5 lakh rupees in a marriage ceremony. That was the content of the bill. See, the idea is very nice. Yes or no? You would agree, right? Okay, only 5 lakh rupees. But the problem is, how do you keep a check on this? Is it possible for the government to keep a check on every marriage ceremony? Then we'll have to hire new officers. All India marriage services, new kind of category of officers who will go to every marriage ceremony, eat the food there, calculate the amount spent there. So the bill's idea was, I mean, maybe the underlying notion was very nice, but it is not practically possible. That is why these private members don't really bring nice kind of bills, and that is also a reason why those bills are not passed. So I think in 1956 was one year when 6 private member bills were passed. That was a record. Otherwise, in the last 53 years, not a single bill has been passed. So that is there. In fact, they hardly get discussed also. There is no time only. So many government bills are pending. I'll give you a simple example. In the 16th Lok Sabha, 999 notices were given by private member for bills. How many were discussed? Only 10 could be discussed. Only 10. That's it. So of course that's there. Anyway, that is all as far as the private member bills are concerned. So just to give an example here, see, if a bill is brought by the government, you will find the word bill mentioned. Nobody's name is mentioned. A bill. This is basically a government bill. If a bill is brought by a non-minister, then that minister's name is mentioned. This is an example of a private member bill. Okay. So that is it. Solve this question. Came in 2017. Let's see how many of you get this correct. I'll give you 30 seconds only, sufficient time. %78% mark this answer correct. Very good. A private member bill is a bill presented by a member of parliament who is not elected but only nominated. Utter nonsense. They can be elected or nominated. They just have to not be ministers. So this point is wrong actually. So one is wrong. Remove these two. Recently, a private member bill has been passed in the Parliament of India for the first time. Of course not. So both are wrong. D. See, basically this question was asked in 2017. Why? Because Tiruchi Siva, MP from in the Rajya Sabha from Tamil Nadu, he had gotten the transgender bill passed in Rajya Sabha, not in Lok Sabha, in 2015. So this question was asked 1 year later. So that's how topics are static only. The knowledge is static. But what static information is more important this year, that is determined by the current affairs. That is why current affairs information is important. It is not that you have to study current affairs like crazy. Static information is where you'll be scoring marks. But what is more important is what the current affairs tells us. That is why current affairs is important. But eventually, if your static topic command is great, you will clear the examination. Nobody will stop you. Okay. Now coming to based on content. So based on content, bills can be of three kinds. They can be a constitutional amendment bill, bills which seek to amend the constitution. They can be financial bills, bills which deal with money matters, and they can be ordinary bills. First up, let's look at how such ordinary bills are passed. Now we look into the passage of ordinary bills. See, as far as the ordinary bills are concerned, every bill goes through three stages. It's very, very simple. First stage is introduction, when the bill is introduced. Second stage is discussion. And third stage is voting. That's it. These are the three stages. So the very first stage is introduction of the bill, where the bill is introduced. After notice is given to the presiding officer, then one date is fixed. On that date, your name is there in the register that you will read your bill. So let's say 2:45 time is there, 2:45 p.m. or 3:1. Right now the time is 3:1. So at 3 o'clock, your name was there in the list for today that you will read your bill. So the speaker or the chairman in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, wherever you are, whichever house you are a member of, will call you. Yes, Mr. ABC, read your bill. And then you'll get up and say, Speaker sir, I raise a proposal to introduce ABC bill. That is called introduction. Ordinary bills can be introduced in either house. It can be introduced or initiated in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Also, they can be introduced by anyone, by any MP, either a minister or a private member. Okay. Now, one very important element. Whenever you are bringing a bill, don't you think you should also tell the members of the house why do you need to bring a proposal? After all, every law needs to have some reason behind it. You're not crazy that you randomly want to bring laws. So what is the reason? That is why every bill contains what? It contains a statement of object and reason, meaning objectives and reasons. Statement of objectives and reasons. SOR. It is very, very important because we need to know why the hell is this minister bringing a bill. So, for that, we must be told as to what kind of bill or what is the reason for this bill that the minister has finally taken some time out and is reading the bill. That should be told. Now, first reading. So, as I said, 3 stages. These stages are called readings. So, first reading or first stage, it's the same thing, but the nomenclature is to call it reading. First reading basically means what? Introduction. So, the bill is introduced. Meaning what? Member will seek the permission of the House saying, Speaker sir, Chairman sir, ma'am, whatever, I seek the permission of the House to raise a proposal and read this bill. Permission is given and you are reading the bill. Title of the bill, objective of the bill, all this is read. That's it. No discussion takes place. Then the bill is published in the Gazette. The same evening it is sent for online publishing in the Gazette, the website egazette.nic.in, it is published there. Okay. First reading is over. Now, second reading or second stage, it can start immediately, it can start later also, anytime. Maybe tomorrow it will start, maybe today only it can start after 1 hour, right? So that's there. Second stage or second reading is where you have discussion on the bill. Now the MPs will discuss on the bill. Bill has been read, maybe 1-2 days of time has been given to all the MPs to understand the bill, and now the discussion takes place on the bill. See, bill will receive detailed scrutiny of the MPs. Now, please understand, governance in these days is very technical in nature. Most of our MPs don't have technical knowledge. I mean, these MPs love to debate on caste and religion, but if you bring a technical matter, they'll get bored. They'll go, what is this technical matter and all? What is GST, tax, electricity, nuclear energy? Don't irritate me. Bring caste matter, come on. That's what they love. But most of the bills being brought in the today's scenario is a very technical kind of bill, right? So what we do is the MPs will have no understanding. What the hell is all this? So we need to spoon feed these people. For that, some committee can be created. So what we'll do is, I as a chairperson or the speaker will say, you 5 people, you please form a committee. Read this bill, discuss on this discuss this bill amongst yourself. Give me a list of pros and cons on the bill. Prepare a report and give it to me. And then I will table the report in the parliament, in my house, Lok Sabha, and the MPs can discuss. Right? So the bill may be sent to a committee of the House for detailed analysis. Once the committee of 5-6 people who are expert in that area, maybe they do an analysis, then the report is sent, and then MPs, oh, now spoon feeding is there. Now they can understand, oh, this is the meaning of this bill. Like when you start your UPSC journey, you always watch the CNA, DNA stuff, right? Hindu newspaper analysis. Slowly and steadily, you start understanding newspaper on your own. Then you start reading on your own. Stages, same thing. Like we are helping you out by making you understand the newspaper initially. Same thing for MPs. So sometimes it is a genuine difficulty for them. There is no educational qualification, right? So that's there. Then there can also be a joint committee. What is the meaning of joint committee? Joint committee refers to a committee which has members of both the houses. Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, MPs from both the house. Can be a joint committee. Right? So a very good example is a committee called Departmentally Related Standing Committee. We'll discuss these committees after the chapter Parliament. So committees can be formed. Some specialist MPs are there. Let's say 10 MPs of Lok Sabha, 8 MPs of Rajya Sabha. These MPs are very good in matters of, say, taxation. And if any taxation bill has been brought, we'll ask them, guys, why don't you amongst yourself discuss this bill and give us the reports, and then the entire house can discuss. So anything that is required to further improve the understanding of the MPs on the proposal, those steps are taken. Detailed discussions take place. There is no time limit for discussions. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, no time limit. And the bill is also sent for public opinion. The bill is published in Gazette, right? People can also send their opinions. You also can send your opinion. If you want to send your input for a bill, you can write a letter to a person called Secretary General of the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Under Article 98, there's a post called Secretary General. I think we had discussed this point under the election of president. That for the administrative paperwork, there is an office. So there is a very senior bureaucrat, retired bureaucrat, who is sitting there as a Secretary General. You can refer to him or her your inputs. Write a letter, send your input there. Okay? And then he'll see the letter and throw it away. I mean, he may read the letter also. See, frankly, he has no time. Let's be realistic. Please, let's be realistic. He has no time for all this. Of 1.4 billion people, do you think he has time to read all the inputs? He will not. But for our satisfaction, we can send it. You will feel satisfied that I have contributed. That is it. So, second stage is over. Eventually, all the MPs finally are getting bored. They say, sir, enough. This boring discussion on bill, this point, this provision, that provision. Like you are getting bored, right? Same thing. The MP say, sir, we are getting bored now. Bring new topic. Let's vote on this. Let's decide. Should we pass the bill or not? So, third stage or third reading is called voting. Here, voting takes place. And we know how voting takes place. How does voting take place? The speaker or the chairperson will ask, do you all members, do we pass the bill? What do you say? Members shout ayes, bill is passed. Or members may shout noes, bill may not be passed. Okay, that's there. So bill is put to vote and it is passed with a simple majority. What is simple majority? More than 50% of the total number of MPs present and voting. Okay. All this happens in house number 1, Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, wherever the bill is brought. Now the bill has to be sent to the second house also. Yes. Now the bill in the other house. What happens in the other house? Exact same procedure. The same minister will come and read the bill, because you know very well Article 88, it says that ministers are allowed to speak in either house. So 3 readings. Bill is introduced, bill is discussed, again voting. Now herein comes the interesting aspect. Options before the second house with respect to voting. What do you think are the options in front of second house? Say the bill was brought in Rajya Sabha. It is passed by Rajya Sabha. The bill comes to Lok Sabha. Now, Lok Sabha can be a very good boy and say, oh, very nice, amazing. And they can pass the bill. Okay. Once the bill is passed, where does the bill go to? Bill is passed by Rajya Sabha, passed by Lok Sabha. Where does the bill go to? Tell me. Please write quickly. Of course, the bill goes to the, absolutely correct, the very powerful president. So now the president can do his own set of drama, veto powers and all. Or he can also, like a rubber stamp, simply sign it. See, let me clarify. We can joke in the class on president being rubber stamp. Please don't write this in the answer. It does not look very nice. For element of humor, I can say anything I want. But in your answer, if you write president is a rubber stamp and all, maybe the evaluator will not appreciate the sense of humor. Maybe what if he does not have a sense of humor? So please, you can use the word nominal head. Don't write he's a rubber stamp, useless fellow. Don't write all these things. It won't look nice. He's after all the head of the country, so we have to respect. Now, second thing, say Lok Sabha has passed a bill. Let's take an example. Example of CAB. What is CAB? Just an example, Citizenship Amendment Bill. If you remember, there was a bill which was passed, Citizenship Amendment Bill. The Lok Sabha says we are going to give, or we are going to stop treating people coming from Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh as illegal migrants. We won't treat them as illegal migrants. Sorry. Raj Sabha gets the bill after it is passed in Lok Sabha. Raj Sabha says, see, we don't like it. We want this change to be made. We want you to add the name of China also. So, what is going to happen is, when the bill comes here in the second house can do what? Second house can pass the bill with amendments. It modifies the bill and then passes it. Now, second house has made some change in the bill. First house does not know of the change. So what do? You send that change to the first house again. Let's see, we have made a change. Are you okay with this? So what is going to happen is two things. Either first house says, oh yes, we forgot to add China. Very good change. Excellent change. I love the change. First house approves and sent to first house. If the first house approves, then everything is okay. First house likes it, second house likes it, both have passed it, the bill goes to president. Task is over. But if the first house says, no, 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 how dare you add China? Have I added China? Don't make any change. I don't like this change. Cancel the change. Now what has happened? First house does not accept the change. First house does not accept modifications. Possible? Now there is a small problem here. The problem is that one house wants the bill to be passed in a different form. Other house wants some change. Both houses are fighting. Or there can also be a situation where second house takes no action only. Takes no action. Second house takes no action. It is doing nothing on the bill. No discussion, no voting, nothing is happening only. First house is saying, sir, what are you guys doing? Please pass the bill. Second house is sitting idle, enjoying, wasting time, laughing, joking here and there. After 6 months of this time which has been wasted, so eventually what is going to happen is, after 6 months, now we can safely assume that both houses are not on board on the bill. Either both houses are fighting on what shall be the provision, or one house wants to pass the bill, other house does not want to pass the bill. Any which way, the whole point is that both houses are stuck on some issue, and this is what would rightly be called a deadlock. Deadlock has occurred, right? Now, deadlock between houses. Now, what do we do? If such a deadlock happens, then the president says, wait, 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 don't fight. I am here. The president will call for a joint sitting. So how do we resolve it? To resolve, president may call for a joint sitting. This is what is referred to as the joint sitting of both the houses. I hope this point is clear now. And this is mentioned under Article 108 of the Indian Constitution. Joint sitting. Who calls for a joint sitting? The joint sitting is called for by the whom? By the president. When a joint sitting is called, both the houses sit together. Now you will say, where are they sitting together? They sit together in the Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha has plenty of seats available, no problem. Both the houses will sit together. Lok Sabha, with its 543 people, and Rajya Sabha, with its 245 people, they will sit together. So, joint sitting. And who is the chairperson or the presiding officer of joint sitting? The presiding officer of joint sitting is the, as you know, I'm sure, speaker. Speaker is the presiding officer of the joint sitting, which will have members from Lok Sabha 543 and Rajya Sabha 245. Okay. Now in the joint sitting, what happens? Number one, it is presided over by speaker. Number two, since the joint sitting is taking place in the Lok Sabha, then what happens? Rules of Lok Sabha are followed. My house, my rules. As simple as that. So rules of Lok Sabha are followed. Number three, after all this discussion is over here, then again matter is put to vote. After voting by a simple majority, if in a joint sitting the bill is passed, then it is passed. That's it. Done. This is what is a joint sitting. Article 108. We have drawn inspiration from Australia, this concept of joint sitting. Okay. And say now, if you may, I say, so what if the speaker is not there? If speaker is not there, deputy speaker is there. If he is not there, panel of chairpersons are there. So many people are there to take up the session. So that is how the problem is resolved. In our country, so far, we have had three joint sittings. Three joint sittings. One was in 1961, Dowry Prohibition Bill. Second was in 1978, and third was POTA, Prevention of Terrorism Act. So basically, in all these cases, Lok Sabha wanted the bill to be passed. Raj Sabha was raising some concern. But you know very well, see in a joint sitting, look at the numerical strength. Lok Sabha has a very huge numerical advantage. So if the Lok Sabha wants to get a bill passed, it will get a bill passed. Raj Sabha, less than half members. For example, POTA. So this Prevention of Terrorism Act, it became an act. It has been cancelled now. It was a very dangerous kind of law. Random arrests were allowed under the law. Basically, this fellow, the terrorist, Afzal Guru, you know, if you call Afzal Guru as a terrorist, lot of left-wing liberals feel very bad about it. But he was a terrorist. Anyway, so this terrorist, Afzal Guru, he was a mastermind behind the parliamentary attack of 2001. And after this parliamentary attack only, we made some modifications to bring a law called POTA. But we already had a very bad experience with a law called TADA. If you remember, and you have seen this Hindi movie called Sanju, which was nothing but a hagiography of Sanju Baba, Sanjay Dutt. That movie was meant to showcase that Sanjay Dutt was never wrong. He was always correct. Situation was wrong. Such a nice, poor, innocent fellow. But anyway, so Sanjay Dutt was jailed under a very draconian law called TADA. TADA used to be a law, terrorist and disruptive activities. For 10 years, 1985 to 1995, TADA used to be a very dangerous law where people could be randomly arrested in the country, kept in jail for 1 long year without even taking you to court. It was a very draconian law. So that is why Porter was also not seen very nicely by Rajya Sabha people. That what is this law to harass people and all? Anyway, this bill was passed. For dowry prohibition, see, dowry, I'm sure a lot of you would know what is dowry. Some of you are planning to take dowry once you clear the examination. So in 1950s, when this bill was initially brought, lot of people raised concerns because dowry was seen as the only legitimate way in which a woman could claim some part of her property, of her maternal or paternal property, whatever it is, right? So otherwise, the daughters after marriage had no claim to the father's property. That is why Rajya Sabha MPs did not want such dowry bill and all, prohibition of dowry. But later on in 1955 and 56, we made some laws called Hindu code bills to even allow daughters, at least amongst Hindu marriages, daughters to get the right to property inheritance. And then this bill was passed. Anyway, so these are three occasions when these bills have been passed by the parliament joint sitting. One simple question. Okay. There is also a constitutional amendment bill, 108th constitutional amendment bill. This bill is actually women's reservation bill. So this bill seeks to reserve 1/3 seats in the Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha for women. Here also, Raj Sabha wants to pass the bill. Lok Sabha doesn't want to pass the bill. Tell me, why are we not having a joint sitting? Please write the answer. I think you've understood the question. Write the answer. This is a bill which seeks to reserve 1/3 seats for women in the Lok Sabha and the assemblies. Lok Sabha does not like the bill. Raj Sabha wants to get the bill passed. But still, why no joint sitting? Very simple reason. Some of you have mentioned this reason correctly. The reason is because it is a constitutional amendment bill. A constitutional amendment bill does not permit joint sitting. It is not allowed only. It is only allowed for ordinary bills. That is why you cannot call for a joint sitting. Both houses have to pass it separately. That's the reason. Okay? Great. So that is all as far as joint sitting is concerned. We are done with passage of the ordinary bills. Now coming to financial bills, of which one very unique kind of financial bill is a money bill. So money bill is a type of financial bill. See, there are various kinds of financial bills. Basically, not various, three kinds of financial bills. Some financial bills are called money bills. Some financial bills are called financial bills type 1, and some financial bills are called financial bills type 2. These are the three categories of financial bills that we have in the country. So I hope now you can understand this very basic thing. All money bills are financial bills, but not all financial bills are money bills. Right? From our nursery days, we've been saying these kind of statements only. Right? So what is a financial bill? Amongst all financial bills, first up we have money bill. I'll tell you the definition of money bill. Before that, simple information on procedure. There are some important elements of differences in procedure from an ordinary bill, right? So money bill is a type of financial bill. Procedure of passage of money bill is mentioned under Article 109. Now hear me out carefully. If a bill is a money bill, it can only be introduced in the Lok Sabha. Such bills can't be introduced in the Rajya Sabha. I am repeating it. A money bill can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha. Okay. Now, when you bring a money bill in the House, prior recommendation of President is required. We had discussed this point in the topic present also, that money bills require the previous permission of the President. Now, one very important convention. It is not mentioned in the Constitution. It is just a convention. What is a convention? Convention is that a money bill will be introduced only by a minister. I am repeating it. It is nowhere mentioned that a money bill can be introduced only by minister. It is just a matter of practice. But money bills can be introduced only by ministers. It's a convention or a practice, right? If a statement is asked, as per the Constitution of India, money bills can be introduced only by ministers. That's a wrong statement, of course. Now, we have also seen this provision that once a money bill is passed, it is sent to Rajya Sabha, because money bill is started only in the Lok Sabha. So speaker will sign on the bill and say this bill is a money bill. So speaker decides, and we know that speaker's decision is final. But we also know that in the Raja Rampal case, Supreme Court said, speaker, nothing is final. What if a decision is unconstitutional? We can question it. So that is there. Now comes the real catch. The bill goes from Lok Sabha to Rajya Sabha. In the Rajya Sabha, first reading, introduction takes place, discussion takes place. All this happens. Come to third reading, voting. What can Rajya Sabha do? Rajya Sabha can pass the bill. Rajya Sabha cannot modify and pass the bill. No. Rajya Sabha can suggest some changes, that these changes. Rajya Sabha cannot make changes. If those changes are accepted by Lok Sabha, very good. If they are not accepted by Lok Sabha, then those changes are not made. What if the Lok Sabha says that, sorry, your changes are bogus, we don't accept it, bill is passed. Now, if Rajya Sabha does some drama, it will not pass the bill only. It is waiting. The real catch here is Rajya Sabha can only delay the passage of money bill for 14 days. Beyond 14 days, as soon as 14 days are over, the bill is passed immediately. So that is why we say Rajya Sabha has no power over money bills. They can only delay. That too for a maximum of 14 days. That is all as far as the money bill is concerned. And again, a reminder, in the previous class, yesterday only, we had seen the veto pass, and you know very well, the president cannot return a money bill. Meaning what? No, which veto? No suspensive veto. I hope this point is clear. Now, please understand, what is a problem here? The problem is, we have all seen how the governments are formed. Where is the government formed? Which house? Lok Sabha. So in the Lok Sabha, government always has majority. I mean, that is why they are a government, because they majority in the Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha has no power. Lok Sabha government has majority only. That is why, don't you think, if the speaker is completely biased, he will deliberately and randomly sign, oh, this bill is a money bill, and send it to Rajya Sabha. Because the moment the bill is signed as a money bill, Rajya Sabha is powerless, it's toothless, it can do nothing. This is a very cunning way for the government to get around the Rajya Sabha scrutiny. Because in Lok Sabha, they have majority. And come to think of it, the president can also not send it back. Anyway, the president is somebody who's largely supporting the ruling party only. So this is a problem. And that is also a reason why Supreme Court has said that we will check such behavior of speakers. That is the reason why it is very, very important for the speaker to be independent, because these are those areas. See, we can't make laws for everything. we have to eventually rely on a good behavior also, right? So we have hired you as a speaker, we have elected you as a speaker. We can't make laws and rules for everything. We have to also depend on your goodwill behavior and all, and on your ethical practices. That is why Supreme Court interferes. A very classic example of misuse of money bill is in 2018, the case of Aadhaar bill. This is a possible misuse of money bill. Allegations. Who are we to make all these allegations? People say, right? Okay. Now that is the procedure for money bill, but what exactly is a money bill? When does a financial bill become a money bill? There is a definition for it. You have to meet the criteria to be called a money bill, and that criteria is the definition here. So the definition of money bill is mentioned under Article 110. What is the definition? This is the definition. Any bill which imposes or abolishes or remits or alters or regulates any kind of tax, any tax proposal is a money bill. Regulation of the borrowing of money, giving of guarantee by Government of India, all such things, money bill. Custody of consolidated fund of India or the contingency fund of India, payment of monies into or withdrawal of monies from such fund. So if you are putting money inside CFI and all, that proposal is actually a money bill. Now, let me tell you, this word monies is not some spelling mistake. The meaning of monies, it refers to different forms of money. Money can be in the form of currency, Indian currency. Money can be in the form of foreign currency. Money can in the form of gold, etc. So different forms of money is called monies. It is not the plural of money. That if you have 1 rupee, it's called money. If you have 10 rupees, it's called monies. No, no, no. It is different types of money in the form of gold, foreign exchange, letter of credit, all these things. That is called monies. So it's not a spelling mistake. Now, what is appropriation? Withdrawal. Withdrawal of money out of CFI. Look at this provision. Withdrawal of money. If any bill contains only this provision, taking out money from CFI, that provision is called a money bill, or that bill is called a money bill. Then declaring of any expenditure to be expenditure charged. What the hell is this charge expenditure? Tell me. No voting, only discussion. Charge expenditure is also a part of money bill only. Then receipt of money on account of CFI or public account of India or custody of such money, or any matter incidental or related to any of these above matters, that is called a money bill. So only such bills are called money bills. That bill should not have any other provision, because if a bill has some other provision also, then it can be called a financial bill but not a money bill. Money bill has a very strict definition. The bill should have only such provisions which relate to Article 110, clauses A, B, C, D, E, F, and lastly G also. That's it. This is the definition of money bill, right? If the bill has any other provision, that bill is not called a money bill. That will be a financial bill but not money bill. So very strict definitions there. There is no need to mug up the definition. Just remember roughly that any taxation proposal, any borrowing of money, custody of consolidated fund, taking out money from CFI, charge expenditure, receiving money on account of CFI, receiving some loan repayment, receiving money from the, or receiving money into the public account of India, right? Such kind of things, they are called money bills, or any matter which relates to all the above matters. That's also possible. Multiple matters are there, but all those matters are mentioned under Article 110 only. So this is the definition of money bill. Okay, that is there. That is all as far as money bill is concerned. Let's do one thing. Let's take a quick break and a small 10-minute break because we'll have an evening break at 5. So let's take a quick break. After the break, we'll take up for discussion the other types of bills which are financial but not money bills. Okay, break please. Come back at 3:50. Okay, so let's continue now. So we're discussing on the money bills. Any changes in tax distribution? Tax distribution between center and state. No, that is not a money bill. Yamini, sir, you are saying, oh, I'm saying what? Money means any type of money, different forms of money, not any type of money. So, different forms of money. See, choice of words is very important. Money can be in the form of gold that a country has, money can be in the form of forex reserves, money can be in other forms also. So, that is what is called forms of money, hence, monies. Please explain G clause with example. Anything else as per your request? So, G clause with example. Sometimes a bill will have multiple type of topics, right? It could be a taxation proposal. It could also be involving some tax proposal and putting money into CFI. That is, if more than one of the clauses is involved in a bill, it is referred to as G. Any matter incidental to or any matter specified in the subclauses A to F, right? That is how it is. Sir, am I correct? The bill is presented to speaker and speaker decides the bill is money bill. If money bill is then sent to president for prior recommendation. No, 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 no. Before you bring the bill only, president's permission is required. Prior recommendation. In fact, this is a reason why the bill is called, the bill is brought only by minister, because only ministers can give the president binding order. Sir, give prior permission. And money bill is not only bill. There are other bills also which require the prior recommendation of the president. Money bill is just an example of such a bill. Okay. Yes, Nitesh, joint sitting is always on the advice of Council of Ministers. What is the power of President? I mean, let's not say this again and again, but you know very well what power does he have. Yes, Nikhil, this definition can be misused. Sushmit, is prior bill ever passed? I did mention, right? It has been passed 14 times before 1970. Aditi, criteria for money bill can be overridden by speaker as he has power to consider any bill as money bill. Yes, yes. The criteria can be overridden, of course, but eventually now Supreme Court has said that we'll interfere. If you find that you are misusing your position, we'll interfere. Gayatri, which are the provisions in the definition of money bill were used in Aadhaar? Clause D. This was the clause, somebody is asked, this was the clause used for Aadhaar bill. Because the government said, we are using Aadhaar to provide subsidies, direct benefit transfer to people. So we are going to take out money from CFI and give it to people. Appropriation, withdrawal of money from CFI. Such useless kind of logic they are using. Anything you do in the country requires spending of money, right? That can't be called a money bill, but that was the criteria they used. Okay, what else? No, it is just a convention, not convection. Convention. You, Subhash, convention means a custom. So in the very first class, I had mentioned some conventions, right? So convention is a custom, a tradition, right? It is not mentioned anywhere that it is mandatory. It's not a law. It's just a practice. Okay. Now let's come to what we know as the financial bills. Yes, yes, budget is a money bill. If a bill is declared as money bill by speaker, then how can the bill get prior recommendation by president? Anubhav, the bill has to, before introduction, see, read the statement here. prior recommendation is required for introducing the bill, right? Before you introduce the bill, you have to take the permission from president, right? So money bill is an example of various kinds of bills which require prior recommendation of the president. We had discussed this yesterday. I had given some examples also. For example, any bill which introduces some surcharge, any bill which tries to modify the taxation, definition of agricultural income, any bill which tries to alter taxation, any bill which is Article 3, such bills are those which require the prior recommendation of the president. Money bill is such an example of bills. So once this bill is introduced, it is passed by Lok Sabha, then the speaker certifies this bill is a money bill. That is the procedure. Okay. Yes, Subhash, convention is not compulsory. It is just a practice. Okay, let's get back to our discussion now. So coming to the next categories of bills, these are basically financial bills, and financial bills can be categorized into two categories. Category 1 is financial bill type 1, and then financial bills type 2. Very simple. Those bills which contain some of the matters under Article 110, which is money bill, but contain other matters of general and ordinary laws also. As I said, money bill's definition is very strict, very limited. If the bill contains only those provisions which are mentioned under Article 110, it's a money bill. The moment the bill contains other provisions also, that is not a money bill. That becomes a financial bill, right? I'll give you a very simple, a very popular example in this case. See, even till date, if you ever read the NCRB data, the National Crime Records Bureau data, you will find that every year, and you'll be surprised, that every year around 1.5 lakh people die due to road accidents. It was very less in 2020. 2020, it was 1.33 lakh. It was a pandemic, but still 1.33 lakh people died during road accidents. And what is most surprising is that most of these deaths do not happen because of drunken driving or something. It is because of poor quality of roads. So back in the year 2000, government brought a bill called Central Road Fund Bill. It now became an act. It has become an act 2000. Okay. Now, what was the content of this bill? So what basically happened? Government said we have to improve the condition of all these national highways, rural roads. We want money. But why to spend money from our own pocket? Let's tax people only. So what the government did, it imposed imposition of cess on petrol as well as diesel. Cess was imposed, tax on tax. Now, what is cess? Cess is basically a tax on tax, which is stored or kept separately in CFI and is spent for a particular purpose. So the government said, we will now impose a cess or an additional kind of additional tax surcharge, tax on tax. We'll impose a cess, some kind of tax on the use of petrol and diesel, and all the money that is collected from cess money collected will be placed under CFI in a separate account called Central Road Fund. Central Road Fund in CFI. Now, look at this. Is this not a money bill? You are imposing some kind of tax and you are storing the money into CFI. It's actually a money bill, but the bill also said this fund will be used for improving the national highways, rural roads, etc. So now there are two parts of the bill. This is Article 110 and this is a general matter. If a bill contains provisions of Article 110 and a general matter both, then such a bill is called a financial bill type 1. Are we okay with this? So this is what is the financial bill type 1, right? Now, when it comes to all such matters where you have a combination of ordinary proposals as well as some monetary matter, this is a classic case of a what? Financial bill type 1. Now, what is the condition? The condition is that if the bill is a type 1 financial bill, then it can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha, not in the Rajya Sabha, and it can be introduced on the prior recommendation of the president. And of course, whenever any bill requires the prior permission of the president, it is always, as a matter of practice, brought only by a minister. Introduced by minister. That is there. And lastly, once this bill is brought in the Lok Sabha, that's the only special feature. Otherwise, both the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha have exact same powers. Nothing specific is there that this bill will not be passed in the Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha has no power. No, no, no. Equal powers. Everything is exactly the same. Joint sittings, passage of bills, fighting, argument, modifications, everything can be done by Rajya Sabha. Right? So, Rajya Sabha otherwise has equal powers in all other aspects with respect to passage of such financial bills. Okay, that is there. Okay, now this is with respect to the financial bill type 1. Now, there is also a category of financial bills which is called type 2 financial bill. Now, both these financial bills are mentioned under Article 117. This is clause 1 and this is clause 2. Oh, sorry, clause 3. Now, what is type 2 financial bill? Now, please understand here. There are certain proposals or certain bills which are ordinary kind of bills only. When they are passed, there is nothing unique about them, nothing monetary. But because you are passing the bill, it will have some effect on CFI. I'll give you an example. Currently, in the Supreme Court of India, there are 34 judges, right? And you know very well that we have a lot of pendency in the Supreme Court, right? 70,000 cases are pending in the Supreme Court. We want to increase the number of judges in the Supreme Court. If you want to increase number of judges in Supreme Court, what is the procedure? There is a bill which is called, you can bring a bill called to increase judges in Supreme Court. You can simply bring a bill. That bill is called Supreme Court Number of Judges Act 1956. Supreme Court Number of Judges Act 1956. You amend this particular bill and increase the judges, right? So from 34, let's say You pass a law and say Supreme Court Number of Judges Amendment Act 2023 and increase from 34 to 50 judges. Let's say from 34 judges, we have now made 50 judges. Seats are increased. When you increase the seat in Supreme Court, is this a monetary matter? Of course not. It is not a monetary matter. It is an ordinary bill. But please understand, when you are increasing the judges in Supreme Court, eventually we'll also have to hire people as a judge. We'll appoint some people as judge. When you appoint them, you have to pay salary also. So not right now, but when you hire and fill those extra seats you have created, you have to spend money from CFI. Yes or no? Such a proposal, such a bill, which is an ordinary bill, but that contains provisions which may involve expenditure from CFI, not right now, but in future. Those are called financial bills type 2. I hope this point is clear. So this is a financial bill type 2. There is no special provision for this. It can be introduced in either house. Prior recommendation is not required, and passage in both the houses equal powers, right? Nothing special here. There is just one condition. Only condition. What is the condition? Condition is that in case any house wants to discuss on the bill. What is discussion? Second reading. For second reading in any house, president's permission is required. Not for introduction, but for discussion. For second reading in any house, president's prior permission required. Not for introduction, but for what? Discussion. Okay, this is what is financial bill type 1 and type 2. I hope this has been understood by everyone. Simplest possible way, right? So, except constitution, all bills require president's approval. Nikhil, what kind of approval? Prior or post passage? Please clarify your question. Not understanding. Which one? Type 1, type 2? I mean, these are basically financial bills type 1. I'll repeat this once again. Type 1. Look at this bill. This is I just look at the example. Forget what is mentioned here. Look at the example. The example says that a central road fund has to be created. And for that, you have to impose some kind of, some additional tax has to be imposed on the people. Now, whenever you're imposing any tax, abolishing any tax, any kind of such thing, and you are keeping the money in CFI, it is actually a money bill, right? But the definition of money bill is that that bill should only contain those provisions. Nothing extra should be there in that bill. But this central road fund bill has two parts. One part definitely is like a money bill, but the second part is that this bill will be used to improve the condition of roads, national highways, etc. So improving roads is not a monetary matter, it's an administrative matter. So if a bill contains some provisions of money bill, but also other kind of provisions, then that bill is what is known as a financial bill because it has a money provision. But it is not called a money bill because it has other provisions also. That is the example, and these are the conditions. Now coming to the second aspect. In certain cases, most bills that are passed have no monetary importance. Let's say the citizenship bill, the triple talaq bill. Now what was that? Does it have any monetary importance? No, not at all. We are punishing some people. That's it. It has got no monetary relevance. But sometimes when certain bills have to be passed, which also requires some expenditure from CFI, not right now, but in future. For example, the increasing the number of Supreme Court judges. When you increase the judges, you have to take out money from CFI to pay the salaries at a regular interval, right? So this kind of bill is creating a regular expenditure on CFI, not a one-time expenditure, regular expenditure on CFI. This kind of bill is called a type 2 financial bill. And because it is basically an ordinary kind of bill, there is no special provision here, right? And normally such bills are used in cases where uh, a certain regular kind of charged expenditure is required, and that is why there is no point in discussing such bills, right? And that is why the president's prior recommendation is required to discuss in detail. That's the only condition when it comes to discussions on type 2 financial bills. Otherwise, this is the categorization of ordinary bills, financial bills, and we've already seen constitutional amendment bills. Okay, that is there. Yes, Siva. Aadhaar was basically a financial bill. Nobody disagrees on that. Aadhaar is a financial bill, type 1 financial bill. It is not a money bill. That is why a type 1 financial bill gives Rajya Sabha equal powers. The whole problem here was that Aadhaar was being called as specifically a money bill. No, that bill did not have the only purpose of direct benefit transfer. That the purpose of the bill was to create a unique ID for every individual, collecting data at large scale. So that is an ordinary purpose. But despite this, the government singularly focused on that provision only, right? That was there. So this is there with respect to the, and Nikhil, I think the logic has been understood now. That it is basically largely something that deals with charge expenditure and stuff, expenditure which is being done at a regular basis. So discussion would require permission. Otherwise, we can simply get the bills passed very quickly. Okay. Kulshi, Financial Bill 1, if we separately pass the two parts as a bill, then our purpose will be fulfilled. Why will we separately pass the two bills? It will create a confusion, right? The bill has to have a common purpose, right? So it will get a confusion uselessly to pass two different kinds of bills. Okay, that is all as far as the bill is concerned. Expenditure from CFI is compulsory in financial bill type 2. No, what is there to explain? Every expenditure is from CFI only. How can you ask this question now? Everything being done in this country, where is the money coming from? If you have to get an approval via bill, where does money come from? CFI only, right? Contingency fund is for exceptional circumstances. So every single penny being spent is from CFI only. Raj Sabha has equal powers means what? Raj Sabha has equal powers means in case of money bill, Raj Sabha could not make any changes. But when I say Raj Sabha has equal powers, means Raj Sabha can also make changes, the same kind of changes that can be made by the Lok Sabha. Okay. Okay, so that's all as far as bills are concerned. Now, just a small point here. When the Lok Sabha gets dissolved, please, choice of words. I am not referring to prorogation of a session. Budget session is over, then monsoon session will start, then winter session will start. Sessions keep on happening. But after every 5 years, the Lok Sabha gets dissolved. When the Lok Sabha gets dissolved, at that point of time, some bills might have been pending in the Lok Sabha, right? Now, after the Lok Sabha gets dissolved, new Lok Sabha comes. So do you think all the pending bills there, is it justified for new Lok Sabha to again start on discussion on the same bills? Of course not. So what we do is, every bill pending in the Lok Sabha, when the Lok Sabha gets dissolved, all such bills which are pending in the Lok Sabha, whether they have been introduced in Lok Sabha or they were passed by Rajya Sabha and have come to Lok Sabha, all such bills lapse. Bills lapse meaning bills are dead, they are over, they are thrown away. Okay. Secondly, if any bill has been passed by Lok Sabha and is pending in Rajya Sabha, and in that meantime, before Rajya Sabha could pass it, the Lok Sabha gets dissolved. Those bills also lapse, become dead. In case you want to bring it again, you have to again take the very first step, giving prior notice, informing the presiding officer, 7-day notice, 1-day notice, publishing in Gazette, introduction, detailed discussion, all the things have to start from scratch. So I'll repeat. In short, any bill which has been seen by the Lok Sabha will lapse, right? The only condition is that if the bill has been passed by both the houses and goes to president for signature, and then the Lok Sabha gets dissolved, then nothing happens, the bill will be passed. If a joint sitting has been called, no problem. If a bill is introduced in Rajya Sabha and is there only, no problem. But if the Lok Sabha has seen the bill with its dirty eyes, then the bill lapses. As simple as that. So whenever Lok Sabha gets dissolved, every bill pending in the Lok Sabha is dead, thrown out of the window. And if the Lok Sabha had passed a bill which is pending in Rajya Sabha, that also lapses. Are we clear? Lapse. Bill is dead. This is called lapsing of the bill. Okay. So that is there with respect to the position of bills pertaining to dissolution of Lok Sabha. Solve this question. Came in 2016, right? I'll give you 45 seconds. Again, my request is please don't be in a hurry. Read the statement carefully. It is very important. Anubhav, a bill regarding emoluments and pensions. No, it will be a money bill only directly, right? Emoluments and pensions of whom? MPs and all, or anyone. It's a money bill because it's directly related to only salaries, nothing else. It's a money bill. 39% have marked B as the right answer. That is very good. Others, what is the confusion here? A bill pending in the Lok Sabha lapses. Of course, it lapses on its prorogation. What do you mean by prorogation? You tell me first. What is prorogation? Prorogation means session ends. Does a bill lapse when the session ends? Of course not. The bill only lapses when the house gets dissolved. So a bill pending in Lok Sabha lapses on its prorogation is a wrong statement. This should have been dissolution, not prorogation. One is wrong. If one is wrong, remove these two. Now let's come to second statement. A bill pending in the Rajya Sabha, which has not been passed by Lok Sabha, meaning what? The bill has not been seen by the Lok Sabha with its dirty, with its very nice eyes. That bill shall not lapse. Of course, that bill will not lapse. Shall not lapse. If a bill is introduced in Rajya Sabha and it's pending there only, it will not lapse. The bill only lapses if it has been seen by Lok Sabha. Right? So B is correct. If B is correct, 2 only is the right answer. Okay. So this is with respect to the types of bills and their passage in the parliament. Now, let's come to some parliamentary proceedings. things like question hour, 0 hour, half an hour discussion, some important terms. What are these things? So in, I think yesterday we had, oh, somebody says, let me see the leaderboard. We only had 40 questions. A lot of you have marked all correct. Dhaval, Rani, Suraj, Aniket, Sayadri, Akula, Ashutosh, Avni, Yash, Priyanka, Kshitij, Shalu, Sadev, Sandhya, Turgesh, Sushmit. All of you have marked all the answers correctly, I believe, or 4 questions correctly. Then we have Gulam, Rani, Franklin, Saurabh, so on and so forth, with 3 correct. Okay. As I said, no chocolates, only appreciation. Now, parliamentary proceedings. As far as question hour, 0 hour, and half an hour discussion is concerned, first up is the question hour. So we know very well, in the Lok Sabha, from 11 to 12 noon is the question hour, and in Rajya Sabha it is 12 to 1. So 11 to 12 noon in Lok Sabha and 12 to 1 p.m. in the Rajya Sabha, we have something called question hour. What is this question hour? As the name suggests, MPs can ask questions. I mean, of course, ministers can also ask questions, but it would look very stupid. Why would a minister ask an MP a question? What role do MPs perform? So basically, it's the government which has to be held accountable. So the purpose is to get information on matters of public importance. Also, when you ask questions, why do we have all these questions in between? To keep a check on your understanding, right? So basically, the purpose of questions is to keep the government in check. Plus, keep the government in check. That's the real purpose of question hour. That the ministers will be asked difficult questions, they have to answer, right? And hold it accountable for the performance or the failure of performance of its functions. Now, some things that you have to understand is that it is not that you get up, you go to the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha at 11-12 p.m. and you get up and say, yes, where is the Prime Minister? Prime Minister, answer my question. No, that's not how it is done. You have to give prior information about your question. If you want to ask a question, let's say you want to ask a question. For example, you want to ask the sports minister, youth affairs and sports minister a question. So there's a format. You have to give your question to the presiding officer. And then the presiding officer will, after at least 15 days, minimum 15 days time is given. This is time. Minimum 15 days. Time is given. After 15 days, one date is given to you. That if you ask your question today to the presiding officer, sir, I want to ask this question from the youth and sports affairs, youth affairs and sports minister, this question. Okay. So today is 19th. Maybe on the 6th or 5th of March, of April or 4th of April, a date is fixed. That on 5th of April, you can ask your question at 11:25 a.m. At 11:25 a.m., you will be asked, where is Mr. ABC? ABC, ask your question. And then you'll get up and say, there's a format where you will say, will the Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports be pleased to state? And then your question, maybe whether sport is not being given top priority in the country. What steps have you taken to improve the condition of football in the country? how much money is being allocated to build stadiums, all these things. Then you can ask your questions. This is how questions are asked. So don't think it is some kind of, UPSC class where you ask a question and have to respond immediately. 15 days of time is given. Now, one very important element is that you can ask a question verbally. Let's say, as I just gave an example, that if I'm asking a question from the Youth Affairs and Sports Minister, that will the minister be pleased to inform me whether the performance of the country is not satisfactory in various international competitions, and also whether the minister will tell us what steps is the government taking to improve this situation. This is a very subjective, general kind of answer. So the minister can prepare and they can read the answer. Sometimes I want facts. For example, I may want the civil aviation minister to tell me whether the construction and commission of some airport is happening or not, giving me details of how much money has been spent and how many greenfield airports are to be constructed in the next 5 years with the exact plan and also money to be spent on each greenfield project. This is all data. Why should I, as a minister, recite the data and waste everybody's time? So sometimes you want a question in a written form or answer in a written form. Sometimes you want an answer verbally. See, the advantage of having a verbal answer is that if you ask a question and the answer is verbal or orally, you can ask cross questions, right? But if you want a written answer, then you can't ask supplementary or cross questions, because firstly you have to read the answer, understand the answer, and then later on maybe again give notice for asking question. So that is why two types of questions are there: starred questions, unstarred question. Star means asterisk mark. So this is what is a starred question. In front of the question, star mark is there. And these questions are normally printed on a green piece of paper. So they are also known as, let's use dark green, also known as green paper questions. So sometime in your newspaper, some person will try to impress: green paper question asked today. Don't be confused. They are simply referring to a starred question. What is a starred question? Whenever any MP wants the minister to respond orally, verbally, that is called a starred question. And when you ask a starred question, the minister responds, you can ask supplementary questions. How many? Any number of supplementary questions. But of course, you can't keep on asking the questions because other MPs are waiting for their chance. It's only 1 hour. Please be realistic. There is no limit to how many questions you can ask actually. But please understand the reality of situation, that there are other MPs also waiting to get their questions asked, right? So normally on any given day, 20 questions are listed, but not more than 5-6 can be asked, because every question when you ask it, a minister responds. Then you ask a couple of questions, that's it. But actually there is no limit. But normally we never see more than 2-3 questions that you can ask, because if you start asking too many questions, somebody else will say, sir, you please sit down, my chance is there, because everybody's time is fixed. Okay, that's there. What if you don't want a verbal answer, you want a written answer in detail? Then you ask an unstarred question. Same purpose, same funda. You have to give the minister minimum 15 days of time. And you can ask them a question which requires a written answer. But if you are asking an unstarred question, then you cannot ask supplementary or additional questions on the spot. That's there. But 15 days of time is there, right? A lot of time. See, let's be realistic. One minister is manning such wide variety of activities that it is not possible for him or her to mug up everything, right? So they need some time. And who is preparing all these answers? You as a bureaucrat. Minister will come, say, I am the MP. I have given the notice that I want to ask a question. Presiding officer gets notice that I want to ask a question. The presiding officer will send the question to minister that this question is being asked to you. You have to respond on 4th of April in the parliament. Fair enough. I am a minister. I get the question. Oh, this question. I'll call the secretary of my ministry. Write this answer. Secretary is the senior most IS officer. Do you think he'll write the answer? He'll call the youngest IS officer. You come here. Under secretary, newly appointed. I saw you have got very good marks in UPSC. Practicing answer writing? Write the answer. And see the elevation of status. From writing some random mock answers, you are writing answers which will be read by the minister in the parliament. So this is today's motivation. That if you want your answers to be read by the minister in the parliament, please clear the examination. Okay, so that's there. Now, there are 15 days of time being given. But what if you want to get your answers slightly quickly? Then you can use a tool called short notice question, the third one. Now here, the maximum time is 10 days. So within 10 days, the minister will have to respond. So ideally, it is 6 to 7 days of time is given. Now, a short notice question can only be in an oral form, and you can ask maximum 2 supplementary questions. Like there is no limit in starred question, there is a limit of 2 questions. You can't ask more than 2 supplementary questions in a short notice question. Now, just like the starred question is printed on a green piece of paper, the unstarred question is printed on a white piece of paper. But nobody calls it a white paper question. And the short notice questions are printed on a pink piece of paper. But nobody calls it a pink paper question. I would prefer that you don't call it a pink paper question. You'll write pink paper question and the examiner will also not know what the hell is pink paper question, right? So please don't try to overshow your knowledge. Sometimes it may not be something the evaluator knows. So please write short notice and unstarred questions. For starred questions, you can use green paper questions because it is a very, very common thing. Okay. So that is with respect to the starred, unstarred, and short notice questions. Now, a very important element. Question R does not take place on 2 occasions. Which 2 occasions? Occasion number 1. President's special address or president's speech. And number 2, budget presentation. On these 2 days, there is no question R. Are we clear? Whenever the president gives a speech on the president's special address day, no question R takes place. And on the budget presentation day, you must have seen recently, the finance minister starts reading the budget at 11 a.m. So there is no question R. Just these 2 days. Now, of course, sometimes it may happen that the parliament only functions from Monday to Friday. But if there are too many bills pending, maybe like we have extra classes in a school, college, right? Similarly, sometimes there could be an extra sitting also. On Saturday, the MPs have come to pass a bill, discuss bills. Now, on those extra sittings, we don't have question hour. That is there. But those are rare occasions. Otherwise, on these 2 occasions, there is no question hour. And let me clarify. Very, very important. Whether your question can be asked or not, the presiding officer decides. What if you ask a question, will Mr. Rahul Gandhi be pleased to respond? What is the cost of the t-shirt he was wearing during Bharat Jodo Yatra? So there was this very popular photograph. See, Rahul Gandhi, he is a rich person after all. And he was wearing a Burberry t-shirt. Burberry t-shirts are slightly on the costlier side. They cost around 40, 50K, 60K, 70K. The shirts start at the cost of say 90K, 1 lakh, such things. So can you ask this kind of question? Of course not. Can you ask the Prime Minister, will the Prime Minister be pleased to inform what did he have for dinner yesterday night? You can't ask these nonsensical questions. So you have to maintain the decorum of the house also. So the Speaker or the Chairman of Rajya Sabha can also disallow some questions from being asked. Secondly, if the minister says, I won't respond, sorry, then again here, what can happen is the presiding officer can allow the minister to not respond or can force the minister to respond. Both things can happen. So it is the presiding officer who decides. Again, mind you, it is very, very important for the presiding officer to be independent in his behavior. Otherwise, what do we end up with? We end up with a situation where nobody is asking difficult questions from the government, and if anybody asks difficult question, the presiding officer says, no, this question can't be asked. Presiding officer has to be unbiased. Very, very important rule. Okay, this is all about the question R. Now, question R is for 15 days. 15 15 days. Even the short notice question takes around 5, 6 or 7 days. We want immediate answer. Something happened yesterday. We want immediate answer. Like today only, India has performed very well, losing all its wickets, people going out on a duck. I want a response. Now, of course, you can't ask this question from the government. It's not government's responsibility. But what if something happened yesterday, right? And to give you a simple example, like people should know this also. We all know of various things happening in the country. Are you aware that there is a press reporter who has been arrested in Bihar, Manish Kashyap? So those who are in the northern part of the country who speak Hindi would know Manish Kashyap is a very popular press reporter who constantly criticizes the government. And what has happened? He has been, there could be allegation true or false, but he has been arrested by the Bihar police on spreading some kind of fake news. And the Bihar police went ahead and even tried to seize his property. For arresting somebody on a fake news, how can you seize somebody's property? And the Bihar government has, police has gone ahead and has tried to seize his bank account. Is this how we treat the press reporters in the country? Is this what we have come down to now? To harass individuals who question the government? Is this the behavior? This is what is happening. Maybe the person spread false news. Did you give him an opportunity to say sorry? No. Direct arrests, random tweets. And very weird to say that there is a great leader in the same state called Tejasvi Yadav. Recently, ED had published some information stating that the same person had purchased a land worth 4 lakh rupees, which is now costing 150 crore rupees. Where are such lands? Please tell us also. We'll purchase such land, which costs 4 lakh rupees in purchasing, and after 10 years, the land becomes 150 crore rupees worth. Nobody is arresting them, but you harass the press reporters. This can be a very valid question to be asked in the parliament or in the assembly in Bihar. Such kind of questions. We can't wait for 15 days for response. We want immediate response. What is happening at the border, right? So sometimes the MPs want the government to respond immediately. Okay. So in that case, we have an option called 0R. Now, 0R is actually the Indian innovation. This is our Indian innovation. We have created this concept. Time between question R and lunch break is called 0R. So what is 0R? 0R is a concept wherein the MPs can ask questions without any prior notice. No prior notice is given. I mean, no prior notice does not mean you ask randomly. Same day notice. Same day notice. That is before 10 a.m. Before 10 a.m., you give the notice. And again, there's a limit. Presiding officer can accept 10, 15 questions, not more than that. And he can refuse also. Sorry, too many questions have come already. Next time. But on same day, before 10 a.m., you give the notice that, sir, I want to ask this question today. If the presiding officer accepts, then the question can be asked without any problem. So the purpose is to represent the people's voice in the parliament. Also, matters of public importance can be raised. And here, no need to give notice of 10, 15 days. So it's a very unique kind of concept that we have in the country, wherein you don't really need any kind of prior permission, prior notice. So please remember, zero hour is an Indian innovation. No other country has it. Question hour is asked in various countries, but zero hour, we have thought of it on our own. Unique concept. Okay, this is what is called a zero hour. So maybe border issue with China, price rise, right? What happened to some, let's say, some bridge collapse yesterday. No, I can't wait for 10 days to ask a question. I want response immediately. Come on, tell me what has happened. So response immediately. That is how zero hour is used. I hope this point is clear. Now, let's come back to question hour again. See, in this question hour, when questions are asked, ministers respond. What if I, as an MP who asked a question, am not satisfied with the response of the minister? I feel the minister is not giving a proper answer. He or she is either hiding facts or giving some wrong answer, or I am not happy with the answer. I want elaboration. Or I was asking something, and like a UPSC aspirant, minister is writing something else. You know, that's what we do. Question is asking something, we're writing something else. So what do we do? If you are not satisfied with the question or response of minister, you can inform the presiding officer, sir, I was asking something else, he's answering something else. You please ask him to answer again. I can't tolerate this. Within 3 days of your question being asked, you can approach the presiding officer and ask him to ask the minister to respond again. Within 3 days. Now, you can't say, in 1992 I had asked a question, I'm not happy with the response. That's not possible. Within 3 days. So that is called half an hour discussion. Now, what happens here is, any topic of question hour wherein the MP is not satisfied with the response in the question hour, then you can give prior, you can inform the presiding officer, and within 3 days, and the presiding officer will ask the minister to respond again. Minister is given 3 days of time to respond again. Okay, so inform the presiding officer within 3 days of the question hour, and minister given 3 days notice to respond. Now, why is it called half an hour discussion? Because it takes place in the last half hour of the sitting. 3 days are allocated: Monday as a matter of convention, Wednesday and Friday. On these 3 days, last 30 minutes, that is from 5:30 to 6 p.m. This is when half an hour discussion takes place. Okay, so 30 minutes time is given. Normally this won't happen, but see, I'll tell you something. Who's preparing the answer? You are preparing the answer for the minister. And what if you have prepared some wrong fact and the minister went and spoke that answer in the parliament and the fact was wrong? Minister will come to scold the secretary, and the secretary will scold you an immediate transfer. You get lost, useless fellow. How did you even get selected? So please prepare the answers properly, right? It is very, very important. So this is what is called half an hour discussion. And see, no punishment is there. Don't think that the minister is lying, minister is not giving a good answer, there is some punishment that we'll be slapping the minister, we'll make him stand on the table with his hands up in the air. Nothing of this sort happens. And the only thing is that you should not lie on the floor of the house. I mean, sorry, you should not get caught on the floor of the house lying. You can lie as much as you want. Don't get caught. If you get caught lying in the house, that is actually breaching the privilege of the house. Then you can be disqualified also. So please do everything. Don't get caught lying on the floor of the house. That's it. This is called half an hour discussion. Now, next is motions. So motions, something that we know already. What is motion? Motion is proposal. We are just using a different word. For so long, we've been using constantly a word called proposal. What is proposal? Motion is a proposal. So, motions are basically proposals which are brought before the house to elicit, get a decision or an opinion. Whatever you do in the house, think of a class. When you ask a question in the class, what do? You raise your hand as a mark of decency. That, sir, ma'am, I want to ask a question. That is a customary way of asking a question. Same thing. In the parliament also, anything that you want to do, let's say you want to discuss on a bill, let's say you want to ask a question, you will raise your hand or raise a motion, right? And everything happens through motions only or proposals only. I am bringing a bill. What is that? I am bringing a proposal. I want to vote on a bill. What do? I raise a proposal. Let's vote. Every damn thing you do in the house is some kind of proposal only, collectively deciding everything. That technical term for it is motion. Okay, that is how it is. Now, sometimes motions are formal in nature, properly written. Sometimes they're informal in nature, just verbal. Sometimes some motions require voting. If my proposal is to bring a bill, then voting will take place. But if my proposal was to ask a question only, then no voting takes place. They may or may not be voted upon because motion is a proposal. Okay, and mind you, these motions are not mentioned in the constitution. Okay, these are not mentioned in the constitution. They are all mentioned in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha rules, right? Not in the constitution. Now, motions can be of various kinds. Some generic category is this. This is not important. In the exam, no question will be asked from this topic. Okay. Some types of motions that are there. See, whenever you bring a bill in the house, right? The first stage is introduction, second is discussion, third is reading, voting. 3 readings are there. Now, whenever you bring any kind of bill or any kind of proposal for the first time, very unique kind of proposal, that is called a substantive proposal or a substantive bill or a substantive motion. Okay, substantive. What is substantive? Any independent proposal which is not related to any other topic, that is called substantive. For example, if you want to impeach the president, don't you think you have to raise a motion that 1/4 MPs will write and say, sir, we raise a proposal. What is motion? See, I'm just using the word motion. It is an alternative to proposal. Okay, motion, proposal, proposal, motion, same thing. There is no difference. It is just that I'm using an alternative synonym, right? It's the exact same thing. No difference at all. So some MPs will get up and say, sir, we raise a proposal, we raise a motion, we raise a substantive motion. MPs have no idea it is called substantive motion. What do they do? They know nothing. They'll say, sir, we raise a proposal to impeach the president. But we will call such a proposal as a substantive motion. Okay, that is the criteria. Substantive motions are also called resolutions. Because these are always going to be formal in nature. They have to be written proposals. You have to give in writing what is the reason, ground for violation of constitution, and we will have to have voting on the proposal. To remove the president, you have to vote on it. Impeachment of president, removal of vice president, these proposals are not called proposals. The right term is resolution or a substantive motion. That's the only difference. Are we clear? The choice of words. Like when you remove a VP, we call it removal. When we remove the president, we call it impeachment. It's the same thing, right? But terms change. That's the difference. I'll show you an example. Today we were discussing the types of majorities in the parliament, right? And I had also shown you Article 67B. Let's read the article once again. Let's read now. Focus. We already know this article. A vice president may be removed from his office by what? Resolution. This resolution is what is a substantive motion or a proposal. Do we understand now? This is what is a motion or a proposal. So various topics can be put under various kinds of proposals. If the topic is very unique, very new, brought for the first time, we will call it substantive motion. Now, let us say a bill was brought in the House. What is the first reading? Introduction. After a bill has been read, what is second reading? Discussion. After discussions are over, don't you think our MPs get bored and tired after some time? Even if not they are bored, there are hundreds of other bills which are pending for voting and discussion, right? Discussions are going on. Some MP gets up and says, sir, I raise a proposal. I raise a motion. Let's now vote on the bill. We have been discussing for 10 days. Please, let's vote, sir. What is that? You are raising a proposal asking the MPs to vote on an existing proposal. I am raising a proposal. I am asking all the MPs that, guys, should we now vote on that bill? I am raising a proposal asking the MPs to vote on a proposal, right? This is what is called a subsidiary motion, meaning they arise from pre-existing motions. That is why all these things, nobody is going to ask you a question on this in the examination. It is not possible only. These are very generic kind of terms. Don't worry at all. Not a single question has or will ever be asked from this. This is just very basic categorization. Then substitute motion. Now, what is the meaning of this? Let's say we are discussing on a topic. Discussions are going on. After some time, we have to move to a different topic. In the class, what do we do? Okay, did you all understand? Next topic now. In the parliament, what do we do? If we are discussing on a bill, some minister is waiting for his turn to ask or introduce his own bill. What will he do? He'll say, sir, I raise a proposal. Replace this discussion, remove the discussion. Please give me a chance to bring my bill. What are you doing? You are raising a proposal in the House that, sir, what you guys are discussing, you have wasted too much time. Give me also a chance to discuss my proposal. You are trying to substitute an existing discussion with a new discussion. This is called a substitute motion. It is a motion that is moved in the substitution of an original motion and proposes to an alternative to it. So don't worry, these questions will not be asked in the examination. They are very generic kind of things, categorizations of motions, and our MPs also have no idea about all these things. Nobody has any idea because it is mentioned in some books, so we have to mention it here also, or else you will say, where is that taught? Otherwise, in the exam, nobody is going to ask all these things. And lastly, closure motion. We'll discuss this under budget. We'll explain this in a slightly better fashion under budget. What is a closure motion? There are various types of closure motion under budget. Hopefully today only. This is important. Let me rephrase. This is very important. Very, very important. Specific type of motions. Now, these are proposals which are used in very specific circumstances. These are not some random kind of proposals to be used anywhere at any point of time. These are very, very specific proposals used in very specific circumstances. And this is going to be important. So we have to know all these motions. When can they be introduced? In which house can they be introduced? Right? And what is the result of these kind of motions or proposals? I'll repeat once again, these proposals are not mentioned in the constitution. Don't ask me, sir, no confidence motion is in which article? It is not there only in the constitution. All these motions are mentioned where? In the Lok Sabha rules, Rajya Sabha rules. Okay, that is where these motions are mentioned. So let's do one thing. Let's take a break right now because I'll have to write a lot of things here and I don't want to disrupt the discussion in between. So let's take a break. After the break, we'll take up for discussion. That is at 5:30. We'll take up for discussion the point of all these motions. When are they used? When are they not used? Etc. Okay. That's all, guys. Let's meet after the break. Break till 5:30 p.m. Full enjoyment. Freshen up. Have some tea, coffee. Not too much. You have to sleep at night also, but so much so that you are awake for the next 2.5 hours also. Okay, guys, let's meet at 5:30. Break, please.